And as a leader, you need to be able to do the macro and the micro.
Making someone believe in themselves, bring out the best in them and giving them the wings to fly.
I've always tried to maintain my authenticity as a leader. For me, leadership needs to be about authenticity. It needs to be about how do you create environments for success for the talent around you. It's about recognising raw talent and giving it opportunity maybe over and above its competence. I think the journey as a leader around the AI landscape is going to be really challenging for different types of leadership environments.
Not every CEO, not every chief embraces your thought process.
So tell me about your biggest impact then.
So you talked about leadership shadow. What is leadership shadow?
I believe a leadership shadow can create a DNA of an organisation.
You know you're meant for more meaning, more influence, more impact. Welcome to Impact Legacy with Rania. I'm Rania Bejjani, board advisor and mentor to leaders globally. I'm here to show you how to stand out, shine, and lead with more authenticity, heart, and joy. Join me and my guests as we share inspiring human stories and decode the mindset and strategies you need to build trust, influence at the top table, and claim your impact in the AI era. Your legacy starts now. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of Impact Legacy with me, Rania. I've created this podcast series to spark ideas and inspire leaders from seasoned board members to rising talent to infuse more heart and joy into leadership and to create lasting success, impact, and legacy. Today, my guest is someone I've known, respected, and admired for a very long time. He actually helped me when I started my leadership journey, and he's been an inspirational leader for many. He's a passionate entrepreneur, a change maker, a thought leader, someone who is full of energy and gets things done to bring good to the world. He is the Group Chief Commercial Officer at Robert Walters, the global recruitment firm. And prior to that, he held many senior roles, including being the CEO of Robert Walters Outsourcing globally. He held the CEO role at a portfolio of businesses as in the PE world with the Lloyd's Investment Group. And prior to that, he was the Chief People Officer and Chief Operational Officer at Colt Technology Services, where him and I met and worked together. And he started his career in the armed forces and served in many global conflicts around the world and was part of special forces. So it gives me great joy and pleasure to welcome to my show, Andrew Powell.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure to have you, Andrew. So, Andrew, I don't think I did you justice in my brief intro. It would be lovely to understand a little bit about your life story from you. It's so rich and varied. It's definitely not the mainstream one, and it would be good to share.
Well, I think most of my story is well documented, but I grew up in a pretty impoverished South Wales council estate environment. But because it was my norm, I knew nothing different. And therefore, I absolutely thrived and loved my youth. However, getting to the bright stage of my life where there wasn't much work in South Wales, I decided at 16 years of age to do something different and join the British Army. So straight from school, I went up to Harrogate in North Yorkshire, studied to become an electronic engineer, and graduated the Army Apprentice College at 18. And then I served in totality for 11 years of the British Army, including, as you say, 6 years with the Special Forces. I was involved in multiple conflicts across the globe, serving my country. And then at the ripe old age of 27, I think I'd seen enough action and maybe even a little bit of trauma, and decided to jump into business. And my business career has been wide and varied. And as you say, I've done everything from startup, scale up, private equity, bought and sold businesses, invested in businesses, been a PLC, C-suite executive, and now I find myself really fortunate to be the Group Chief Commercial Officer at the global Robert Walters PLC business, which is a global total talent solutions business where I get the opportunity to change lives every day.
How wonderful is that? There's so much to cover. I hope we're going to get enough time to cover a lot of that. There's many stories that can come out of this, particularly doing those transitions, working in different environments. And I know that social mobility is also very close to your heart, and it's very close to mine. You've worked in these environments. What is now your definition of leadership?
I think it depends which lens you look at leadership through. And I answer the question specifically because it depends what environment you're in terms of which leadership style you need to adopt. I think I've always tried to maintain my authenticity as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes as a leader in a growth-based environment, the leadership style you adopt may be very different to operating in a scenario where business is underperforming. But if you take leadership from a macro perspective, I think for me, leadership needs to be about authenticity. It needs to be about how do you create environments for success for the talent around you to thrive and grow. It's about recognizing raw talent and giving it opportunity maybe over and above its competence. And it's about making sure that your leadership shadow is cast in the right way. When I talk about casting it in the right way, as a leader, you walk into a work-based environment every day and you have the opportunity, because you've been given the gift of leadership, to make somebody's day really bright and inspiring or really miserable. And I choose, where I possibly can, to create environments for success where my leadership shadow, with a bit of authenticity and a bit of humour, is hopefully inspiring for the people who work with me and for me.
Leadership shadow. That's a loaded one. We're gonna come back to that.
Okay.
I want to talk about that quite a bit. But let's kind of talk a little bit about the business environment, and then we go more into the personal characteristics of a leader.
Yeah.
So in today's environment, there is so much change. For example, AI, understandably, is the talk of the town. Everything is about AI. And how business is likely to be run is changing. So what is your take on leadership in this AI-shaped future?
AI is already changing the landscape for so many businesses. Different businesses are adopting elements of AI at different paces. And that could be down to regulation, compliance in areas like financial services and insurance, through to tech startups that are using AI pretty much to run most of their operations. So I think AI is definitely here to stay. I think the journey as a leader around the AI landscape is going to be really challenging for different types of leadership environments and different type of businesses. Because we can all put our head in the sand and pretend AI isn't going to change the way we operate, but it is going to change the way we operate. And it's already impacting significantly into some areas of business that are operating transactional process. And if you don't embrace it, then actually you will potentially become the next Blockbuster or Kodak. And none of us want to be there, right?
Absolutely. Can you give us some examples? Like, you're in the recruitment business. What are you seeing? And that would be very relevant to our audience because, some people might be looking for jobs or whatever. What examples are you seeing that AI is changing, the profile of candidates that are being asked for, and B, like, what are you seeing your clients do with AI to change things?
Yeah, I think recruitment is one element of what we do. We look at the total talent solutions agenda. And what we are seeing is multiple different uses of AI, both through a candidate lens perspective and through a customer lens perspective. So as an example, if you are job hunting now, you can utilize AI for multiple facets of that job hunt, including sending automated CVs out overnight to thousands and thousands of companies. So you no longer have to do individual applications. AI will take care of these applications for you. One example. That, from a candidate perspective, gives you huge efficiency. From a customer perspective, is a potential nightmare, because what you are seeing now are a huge uptick in the number of incoming CVs, and because they are potentially adapted by AI to make you look the best version of you, as a customer of a hiring ecosystem, you are now finding it much tougher to differentiate potential candidate pipelines and shortlists because of the quality of the resumes that are coming through. And those are just two examples at different ends of the spectrum of how AI is impacting the whole total talent solutions agenda.
That's really interesting. If I put myself in the shoes of candidates out there, they will be thinking, I built all this career, and then, AI can write a paragraph about someone else who probably knows half of the stuff. They're gonna get the interview, and I can't. It's really interesting dynamic to see how that will play out, and how companies will deal with that. But let's bring it back to leadership, Andrew. I'm really interested in knowing leadership and AI. So apart from a recruitment and a selection process, how do you expect it to be shaping a leadership behavior in the future?
I think leaders are going to have to make conscious choices about how they use and engage and adopt AI. And that's going to depend upon the key question that they need to ask themselves as leaders and as a business, in terms of, if I look at my business through a customer-centric lens, what level of adoption of AI do I need to be considering to make sure my operating and commercial models are competitive for my customers? And I think when companies are very profitable and growing quite nicely, there's an opportunity for leaders and executives to pop their head in the sand a little bit around AI. Where companies are more challenged, I think that there becomes a burning platform, and AI becomes a real opportunity at pace to help them adopt and evolve and change their operating and commercial models. So again, I think we're on a different spectrum this time, but leaders do have to think about this consciously, because if leaders think AI is going away, it's not. We've got agentic AI now, which is really prevalent, where we can adapt AI-based interventions such that they can do end-to-end jobs, right? That doesn't mean to say that human roles will be replaced. What it means is there'll be different types of roles that emerge as a result of AI taking away maybe transactional work. But as a leader, you have got to be on top of this landscape and how it's moving and shifting, because if you aren't, you could find yourself on the back foot very, very quickly.
You said something really interesting, actually, Andrew, and it's getting me thinking. You said that actually the companies that are doing well have got a little bit their head in the sand, and challenged companies are the ones who are investing more. I would have thought the opposite. I would have thought that companies who are doing well have deeper pockets, have more resources to invest. That's really interesting. And so there is a bit of inspiration, let's say, that also for people who would want to augment their skills, go and embrace AI.
For sure. And I generalize when I talk about the ends of the spectrum. But I think if you have a burning platform and AI can enable you to evolve your operating and commercial models to meet your customer need in a more effective, cost-efficient way, then AI becomes a natural go-to option. If you are a company growing very, very quickly and you have good profits on your products and services, I think then the need to adopt AI at pace, because AI is going to introduce some managed risk
Yes,
okay,
of
whether we
course.
like it or not.
Of course, of course.
But if you're making good profit and high growth, then what a great time to try and invest in AI. But is there a burning bridge to do so?
Yes, I hear you.
And that's the kind of the spectrum I
hear you.
generalize around, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. You've mentioned the lens through which we look at. And you've mentioned that a couple of times, actually. I'm listening. So I actually would be interested in getting your views on, would leadership change depending on if they are looking at it from a client lens?
So you know me very well, right?
Yes.
And I'm very, very passionate about businesses looking through a customer-centric lens, because it's very easy as a leader to become consumed by internal inertia and challenges of any organization. And I think sometimes we create projects and programs and internal inertia without really thinking through what does this mean for our customer? Instead of thinking, okay, what problem or question are we trying to resolve and support our customers to answer? And then what does it mean for us? So for me as a leader, I've always started with, what are the unintended consequences of us making these internal changes if we haven't thought through what this means through a customer lens? So I always try and think about, okay, customer first. If we make these changes, does it better serve our customers? Rather than, how do we get more efficient internally? Oh gosh, we're more efficient internally, but it's had no impact on our customers. So that's my leadership lens. It starts with customer first.
So customer first, customer centricity, customer intimacy. This really is a good segue for us to talk about governance, risk, and audit. As you know, this is my specialty, so I always want to bring back the topic to help the profession and to inspire the profession. Audit and risk and governance, their clients, if they are internal to an organization, if they're not in a firm, although that would be still very, very relevant, their services, not many of them think about them as services to their clients. What, in your perspective, would be a good shift for them so that they can be better able to sell their service?
Yeah. So the best risk and audit and compliance functions I've ever worked with have allowed me as a leader to take smart, manage risk in terms of how I serve my customers. But come on the spectrum of risk with me, that such that you enable me to evolve my operating and commercial model to meet the need of my customer. So don't be my police force, be my partner and my enabler to really do the right thing for a customer, but of course keep me compliant, keep me well governed, but be a little bit entrepreneurial with me as well, because we might have a process, but that process might have been suitable 2 years ago. It might not be the right process right now to enable me to serve my customer more effectively. So how do you come alongside me with a mindset of enablement first and customer-centric first versus process first? And those are the best risk and audit and compliance functions I've ever worked with.
Fantastic. And so I want to summarize this in my own words. Let's see. So we are saying, think of the ultimate customer first, and from the ultimate customer, bring it back to that business part that we're advising, auditing, risk managing. And from that, then think about what you're going to do. So we're projecting to the end customer and then to the internal customer. I love that. Now, you've used words that are very dear to my heart: partnership, customer centricity. This is basically what I advise and mentor and guide my teams in the past and my clients today on doing. So this is, you're speaking my language. As a business leader, what does a strategic business partner look like to you? Can you describe and give real life examples to make it palpable for everyone?
Yeah. For me, a business partner is somebody who comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience, who's a subject matter expert, but who doesn't allow that wealth of knowledge and subject matter expertise to give them blinkers in terms of what we need to do for our customers. So let me give you a real example.
Yes, please.
If historically we have had a specific process or a specific view on a specific piece of legislation, and that legislation has moved, but our internal process hasn't kept up with the move, please don't come and tell me what I can't do. Come and tell me what we can do, but with the context of your subject matter expertise in play.
Love that.
There's always a way to do something smartly for our customers. And of course, we have to be very cognizant of the challenges that risk and audit and compliance bring, but also the opportunities it brings as well.
Absolutely.
But just come and sit alongside me and live in my world and live in the customer world and take what you know and talk to me about solutions rather than computer says no.
Fair enough. Now, that's on regulations and things. But what about like when it comes to more strategic business discussions, a new investment, a new expansion, product system, whatever? How would you like an audit and risk leader to collaborate with you on those? So there are no jail cards here. But this is more about like the actual bottom line of the business and the growth of the business.
Yeah. So I have quite an inclusive leadership style in that I see all of my business partner functions should be in the room as part of a team that looks at the way you build your business. So they are equals. They're not back office. They're not support functions. They're not service functions. They are partners at the table that are there to help you grow a business. That's my start point. They have to want to play at that table though, and they have to want to contribute, and they have to want to be solution orientated. I have a view that if you put the right leader in the right role, the magic happens.
I share that view.
Yeah. So if you've got the right business partner leaders around your table with a solution-oriented mindset who are subject matter expertise, they can add a huge amount of value to how you can shape the future of your operations and your commercial models and your go-to-market models and how you bring customer centricity into your operations. So I'm an embracer and a partner of functions outside of sales functions and market, and all the other functions that are historically perceived as the value creators.
Yes.
I think every function has a duty of care to work with the leader, a CEO, an MD, whoever it may be, to think through how they contribute to the value creation of the growth of a business.
That's awesome. There are a few things I want to pick up on, but I want a quick response from you on this. So not every CEO, not every chief embraces your thought process. What's your message to them?
Leadership is a gift. Everybody has a different leadership.
That's true.
Everybody has a different leadership style, and there's no one right way to lead people or an organization. All I'd say is people like authenticity, and I'm a council house boy from South Wales, and I've been very, very lucky with my career. And I've seen humanity at its best and at its worst through my military career. and I've seen leadership at its best and maybe at its not so great. But I'm not a perfect leader. I make mistakes all of the time. So I have no right to say what perfect leadership looks like. But what I would say is, by embracing the talent around you, trying where possible to put people around you as a leader who are better than you, at least functionally or from a subject matter expertise perspective, only enables you as a leader to fly even faster.
Okay.
So,
that's your message to CEOs. Now, in describing actually what you would define as a partner, you said something that really resonated with me. You said they would want to contribute. So you're giving someone a seat at the table, but you're expecting them to rise to that challenge, which kind of is all about accountability. Are they willing to take on the challenge and be accountable? What is your thoughts on that? And can you give us some examples?
Yeah, look, let's come back to leadership shadow for a minute. I believe a leadership shadow can create a DNA of an organization. But, you can find if there's a change of CEO in any business, you can find very quickly a cultural shift. So you can blame culture for underperformance, right? But as a leader, as a CEO or as an MD, it's your job to create the culture, right?
Correct.
It's your job to own the culture in your business. Lots of people say culture comes bottom up. No, it doesn't. My view is culture's leadership.
Turn at the top.
Absolutely. And the leadership shadow that you cast sets the DNA and the culture of the organization. So for me, making sure that as a leader, you create environments for people to feel they can contribute, whether that be business partner or go to market or sales or wherever it is, and then them coming to that table and knowing they're expected to contribute, creates a very, very different dynamic in a leadership team.
Absolutely.
I've seen so many leadership teams where business partner functions come to a table and they are told what to do. You are here to deliver a service for me. Please go away and do it. For me, that doesn't work for me. If I'm inviting you to a table, and I don't mean to sound arrogant by saying that, but if I'm a CEO and you're sat at the table, you're there because I think you are better than me at what you do. You have more experience and expertise at what you do than I have. And therefore, I do expect you to have a view and an opinion on how we create value and actually do the right thing for our customers.
I want to explore leadership shadow more. Can you give us like an example of where you've done that in real life, Andrew?
Gosh, I think every role I've walked into, I've known walking into that role that I have a duty of care to make sure I create environments for people to be successful. I mean, we go back to let's go back to our Coke days, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky enough to traverse most of the executive functions because I get bored quite quickly if things are stable, as you know. And I'm a changer. I'm a driver, and therefore, when you go into roles that require consistent, authentic, stable, but demanding leadership, and you are there to create those environments, you're always on stage, right? Even my two youngest children, they've just entered the workplace. My boy's been out 3 years. My daughter's just gone in. She's 3 weeks in. And I say to them, doesn't matter what anybody else is doing in your workplace, know you're always on stage, because you are, as a leader, you're always on stage. So you have to ensure when you're on stage that you are the authentic you, because if you aren't, you'll get found out. And also that you realize you've been given a gift and you can make people's lives much better or much worse. So
that's awesome. So you talked about leadership shadow. What is leadership shadow? You want to explain it better for us, please?
So I have a view.
You have a view.
A view, but it doesn't mean it's right. So, and somebody once said to me, leadership shadow sounds like a very grim term because you're casting a shadow, and, is the interpretation of that positive or negative? So for me, leadership shadow is about the legacy that you leave in an organization when you move on. So what do I mean by that? And this is a famous saying, people will never remember anything other
Andrew said
than how you impact their lives, how you made them feel.
People don't remember what you said, they don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely. And look, sometimes as leaders, we have to make really tough decisions. But when you make those tough decisions, make them with integrity. Never nickel and dime anybody if they aren't right for your business. If you have to make tough decisions where people have to exit the business, not because they are bad people, but just they're not maybe the right people for the next stage of the journey, make sure you look after them. Make sure you do it properly. Make sure you do it with a duty of care and with integrity, and maintain your authenticity. And then your leadership shadow becomes consistent. I've impacted over my professional business career thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, sometimes for the better. Sometimes you could argue to help people understand they need careers elsewhere. But even the people who I've had to make tough decisions for and around, for them to go and find futures elsewhere, it's always been done with a duty of care. And I'm still friends or network connections with them all.
That's wonderful.
So for me, it's about leadership shadow. For me, is about the imprint you leave on the talent who you are lucky enough to serve.
So actually, if I'm hearing you right, what you call leadership shadow is what I call legacy.
Yeah. Legacy, when you've gone, when you're present, creating those environments for success and making sure you realize that leadership is a service and that you are there to serve the people around you.
Absolutely.
And you are there to create environments for success. And, I don't crave the big corner glass office, because I like people. So I try and get a standing desk if I can, and I stand out in the middle of the floors. And when I'm not in a meeting, I'm approachable, right? And, and I think that, I think the best leaders actually like people.
True, absolutely true. And actually, best leaders are liked by people.
Yeah, it's a challenge though, isn't it? Because as a leader, you're not there to be liked all of the time.
No, I don't mean liked as in everyone, you're going to be everyone's best friend, but you got to be approachable and human and be able to connect with people.
Absolutely.
Of course, there are some tough discussions and tough conversations to be had. Great. So you talked about casting that imprint as a leader, and you talked about the impact, which is absolutely relevant to my podcast. So, A, what is your definition of an impact? And B, what do you think was your biggest impact in your career so far, Andrew?
So I think impact ranges from individual through to macro organizational. And as a leader, you need to be able to do the macro and the micro, and you need to be able to speak to the person who works on reception just as well as you, and treat that person who works on reception just as well as you treat the chairperson of the company. It was really interesting recently. I had a bunch of grads from an insurance business on a Teams call because they were just starting their careers, and I knew the names of the receptionists in this insurance company's front desk.
Right.
And I said to the grads, "How many of you know the names of your receptionists in front desk?" And they were really shocked, And I use it as an example because for me, so many leaders forget where they've come from.
Yeah.
And therefore, you know, if you are going to be a real authentic leader, you really need to treat people with a level of consistency. And when your talent see you operate just as intimately with the front desk as you do with the chairperson, you know, there's a real resonance of authenticity that they see there. And it's not something that's put on. It's either you do it naturally or you don't. And I know some leaders might struggle with that, which is why I'm saying this is my view, because other leaders might have a different view. But it's always stood me in great stead.
We're here for your view. You get to listen to other views on another day. Okay. And what is your biggest impact?
Gosh, my biggest impact. Do you know, when I was lucky enough to work in private equity, I learned so many lessons and made so many mistakes very, very quickly. But the role the key role I was lucky enough to sit in was all about taking disadvantaged inner city young adults, putting them through educational programs, and then getting them into meaningful work. And for me, that was the most inspiring part of my career, where you could take disadvantaged inner city young adults who've been written off by mum, dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, granddad, because they hadn't maybe fulfilled their potentials, suddenly coming into an ecosystem where they could learn and where they could actually change their life through entering meaningful work.
That's awesome.
And that gave me wow, that was the biggest thing. And we put over 50,000 disadvantaged inner city young adults into meaningful work as a result of that journey. And moving now into global Robert Walters business, I suddenly am given that opportunity on a global stage. So early careers remains a passion of mine.
That is very touching, actually, Andrew. Very touching.
So tell me about your biggest impact then.
Great question, Andrew. Thank you. I was actually going to say, you can ask me a question if you like. Well, for me, my biggest impact, I believe, is developing people. And that is one that brings a lot of joy to me as well as a leader. Unlocking potential, helping people see their own abilities, helping them expand and grow. I've had the privilege of being a leader of leaders. A huge percentage of the people I've had in my teams have gone on to become leaders in their own right, and for me that is amazing. And that doesn't just happen overnight. It's not just because we shared a room or we shared a team that they become that, but it is because of the opportunities I spent in terms of guiding, coaching, giving them the exposure, stretching them so that they could learn, giving them the space to make the mistakes. And for me, seeing them all thrive is actually amazing. I was speaking at a conference recently, and I had completely unknown to me 4 of them in the audience. And so it was, wonderful, wonderful. One of them I had not seen for a while. So making a positive impact and creating that a positive change in someone's life has been my impact, whether it be in my personal life or my business and leadership life. And this is, I think, what we're talking about here: that positive difference, making someone believe in themselves, bring out the best in them, and giving them the wings to fly. Yeah, that's been my greatest joy, and I've done it also. Maybe not at the scale that you've spoken of, 50,000. No, it hasn't been at that scale, but certainly all the people I've worked closely with in my teams or as clients that I've mentored, that's been the case. Next question. You talked about helping the disadvantaged and going into new jobs. That social mobility, I know you're very passionate about it. And actually, so am I. And I think it's really important. A lot of people don't necessarily always get the right opportunities. So, how do you actually do that, Andrew? And what would be your message to leaders out there and to people who might be struggling to find the next thing because their circumstances, for whatever reasons, did not help them? What would be your message so that as we close today?
So I think for me, let's talk about the young talent first. The young talent coming through today have experienced uh, uh, scenarios that have been quite life impacting. They've gone through the COVID period, where they experienced extreme isolation. They've been exposed to the fastest acceleration of digitization and on-demand content consumption probably in the history of the world. So they are coming to the workplace or starting to think about coming to the workplace with a very, very different mindset to leaders like we are today. And the leaders we are today have to understand that and appreciate it and think through then, what do we need to do differently or better to ensure we support this young talent into the workplace? And then you think about not just the talent that are bright and come from good homes and who are fortunate enough, to be able to have university careers. But what about that talent that's out there that maybe come from a more socially deprived environment and maybe have role models who maybe aren't as encouraging of them to find their wings and fly?
You're quoting me there.
No, but it's true.
You're quoting me.
I saw so many of these young adults, who were so talented, but because they'd grown up in environments where their role models maybe hadn't fulfilled their potential, choose my language very carefully, their belief in themselves to allow that talent to flourish was quite diminished. And what we have a duty of care to do as leaders, I think, is think about how do we make it much easier for that talent to feel less threatened by the workplace and finding their wings to fly.
And given your rich life experience and career experience, Andrew, if someone is listening at us today and is feeling disadvantaged for whatever reason, does not have to be socioeconomic. It could be that, I don't know, they've lost a job and they've lost their confidence. They had a personal issue and they've lost their confidence. They did not get on well with their previous boss and they lost their confidence, or they were disadvantaged for whatever reason. What would be your message to help them bring back that inner mojo and to shine bright and go get it?
Baby steps, okay? One breath at a time. Because sometimes when you're in that kind of mindset, it's not easy, and there are good people out there who will support you, who will give you of their time. And, I coach and mentor a lot of young talent in our organization. And
I coach a group of Gen Zs as well.
Yeah, and they forget, or they think if they do a good job, they'll be promoted. And lots of the time, that is true. But, making sure you are seeking out learning outside of your organization as well, or outside of your immediate environment that you are consumed with, is really important. If this young talent reached out to seasoned business leaders on a platform like a LinkedIn, you'd be very surprised if you come at it from you've had an amazing career. Oh my gosh, I could learn so much from you. Could you please give me 15 minutes on a Teams call just so I could pick your brain around what I could do differently or better? You'd be amazed how many leaders want to give something back because they're at the other end of their career. So I think there's a real fear of reach out and engagement and, well, they wouldn't give me the time. I think talent would be quite surprised.
So if you feel like you need a boost, pick up the phone, go on LinkedIn, reach out to the people you know, ask for time, ask for advice, ask for mentoring, and you'll get it. It comes back to the accountability and contributing, claiming your seat at the table. And a final question, Andrew, you're the king of networking. I remember I should tell that to our audience actually. When I first, it was my very first chief audit and risk role, and it was early days, and I was still trying to find my place, and Andrew took me to the side and gave me a pep talk, and it was the best pep talk of my life, Andrew. So one I will always remember, and you've been an immense supporter. And you also told me about networking. So tell the world, you always talk about networking. So let's hear it from you and leave our audience with some next steps they can take.
I've always been an aggressive networker, and I love spending time with good people when there's nothing in it for me. So what do I mean by that?
When there's nothing in it for me. I love that.
Yeah,
yes.
because lots of people think to get other people to give you their time, there has to be an exchange. I don't believe that. I believe that actually spending time with really good people when there's nothing in it for me, I get learning from those engagements.
It's like you're doing good for goodness sake.
Absolutely.
I mean, share that.
Yeah,
I share that.
But lots of people in corporate jobs, they put their head down, they do a great job, and they go home. And that's perfectly acceptable. But what then are they learning to bring back to that job the next day? Mm-hmm. That's a different set of perspectives. What profile are they creating for themselves outside of their day jobs? So for me, I network because I have a very understanding family, but out of 5 working days a week, I'm networking at least 3.
Oh, wow.
After work.
Oh, wow.
Even if it's just an hour before the train on the way home, I make sure that every week I'm at least having 3 meetings after work to get external perspectives, to spend time with good people, to listen, to learn. It's not for everybody, but as you say, I quite
the king of networking 3 times a week. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Andrew, a pleasure and a joy to have you with me today. I'm sure that the audience has been inspired by many wonderful pearls of wisdom you've shared here with us today. Any final words?
No, look, thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. And if today's conversation resonated with you, and if you'd like to find out how I could help you and your team with advisory, mentoring, and training, and or speak at one of your events, please get in touch. My contact details and those of Andrew's will be in the show notes. All right, and till next episode. Thank you for tuning in to Impact Legacy with Rania. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode, and click the bell to be notified of new releases. If this inspired you, please pass it on. Your likes, comments, and shares help us reach more people, because together we can grow this journey of influence, impact, and legacy.